A young man in his 20s, a husband and a father, is exploring Nutty Putty Cave in Utah with his brother when he finds himself trapped, unable to escape. This is the tragic story of John Edward Jones. Hello my friends and welcome to Not Famous. Today we are talking about John Edward Jones. This is a heartbreaking story I've recently learned about. There's a film out there called The Last Descent you might want to check out in addition to this video. John was 26 years old when he passed away. But let's take a step back. John was a young man. He was going to college. He was going to set himself up with a very successful career in medicine. He had a beautiful wife, Emily. They had a little daughter together, Lizzy. And little did he know at the time, when he went into Nutty Putty Cave, he was also going to become a father again to a son. Around November 23rd, John and his wife, Emily, and daughter, Lizzy, were visiting in Utah, the family, for Thanksgiving break. They met his brother, Josh, who was pretty excited about going and exploring Nutty Putty Cave, which had recently been reopened. Nutty Putty Cave had been closed down around 2006 because people believed that it might be dangerous to divers, especially as the cave was changing in ways down below. The cave had recently reopened, but you had to have some kind of special permit to go into there. Now, John and Josh and their family, their father, this family was experienced cavers. They had done this kind of thing before. They knew what they were doing. They had the proper equipment. They felt pretty confident doing so. In fact, there's pictures of Josh and John as children, younger, inside of caves exploring. They loved this. This is something they felt happy doing. Now, it's believed they were around 150 feet below the surface of the earth. At one point, John and Josh split up to explore separate areas. John finds himself stuck in a kind of small area, and as he tries to escape out of it, he actually ends up falling into another section of the cave that's very tight, roughly 18.5 inches. John is nearly upside down in this section, very tight portion of the cave. He's at a 70-degree angle, and blood begins rushing to his head immediately. He initially passes out. He wakes up a few minutes later and begins calling for his brother. Josh does find him eventually and attempts to pull him out, tries to get him out of this predicament that he's found himself in. He ends up falling deeper into the hole. After some time, Josh and John decide that Josh should leave and try to go seek help. A few hours later, after passing out again, John is woken up as a rescuer is talking to him, just trying to make sure that he's okay. They give him some kind of liquid to drink, and they're just letting him know that there's a rescue team out there. At this point, there is a lot of people coming on site, including media, and a rescue team begins to venture down there and figure out the situation. In the first few hours, they really believe that they can get him out of there. They bring in an expert cave diver and somebody who's been involved in rescues before, and that person goes down there and talks to John for a while and discovers some of his history. It's said they've done a couple things. They actually poured oil down to try to loosen him up. They tried to encourage him to do different breathing techniques to try to escape back out. When they were trying to pull him out, his legs would catch the head in the ceiling of the cave, and they weren't able to get him out. They believe in hindsight that it's possible they may have been able to break his legs to get him out. Unfortunately, they believe that would have put him into a shock that would have likely taken his life immediately or pretty quickly. They attempt to drill into the stone, which does very little in such a tight area with such tight angles. They attempt to pull him up through a pulley system, which ultimately fails. Everything they attempt fails. It begins to look grim. After a number of hours, John begins to potentially hallucinate. They try to calm him down in any way possible. This is horrifying, my friends. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm already claustrophobic. Can you imagine being stuck in such a tiny little crevice, upside down, no way to escape, no way to get out? It's just, what a nightmare. Roughly 27 to 28 hours after John became stuck inside of the cave, he passes away. His wife planned to inform the family during that Thanksgiving that she was pregnant with their second child. And the thing is, this happened back in 2009. They've never been able to get John out. They deemed it unsafe to attempt to do so. And since then, Nutty Putty Cave has actually been sealed off. The access to it's been closed off. I actually looked it up. It's just an hour and a half out of Salt Lake City, and it's now classified as a graveyard, as a memorial. There's a plaque with John's name and information on it that you can see. My friends, this is one of the more heartbreaking stories I've read in recent times. As a father myself, to see a young man, just 26 years old, doing so successful. He was going to raise this family, his daughter and his son, correctly with his wife that he loved so much future that they had together was just lost. Now, there's a lot more details to this story. You might want to look into it yourself. A lot of interviews that have been done. Like I said, there's a film. I think it's available here for free on YouTube to watch. It's called The Last Descent, and it came out a few years later and kind of shows off what really happened with a little bit more story integrated. But this story is heartbreaking, my friends. So if you ever go into a cave, I ask you, please be careful, be cautious, my friends, and don't let this happen. Bless this man and his family. I also want to give a quick shout out to the patrons who support Not Famous and help this channel grow. It's greatly appreciated. You can check out the link below if you would like to participate yourself. My friends, it is always good to talk to you. I will talk to you again. And as always, adios, amigos. Famous. Not famous.